Hello everyone, welcome to the Dark Fairytales from a Fisherman talk. So, quick words about me. So I do pen testing, vulnerability researching, and I lead the core development of BIF, Browser Exploitation Framework. I wrote with Wade and Christian Browser Hackers Handbook. I was a fisherman and currently I'm a fisherman. So before I was basically doing like tournaments, like surf casting, which is like a discipline that was invented in the United Kingdom back in the 60s, 70s, and then it was imported in Sardinia because we are an island, so you know the currents are always good and there is always a surf, although we don't have like the the different levels according to the moon, like in the Atlantic Ocean. So analogy between fishing and fishing. So there are some analogies, as you can see. So when you do fishing with this technique, you prepare your bait, you prepare your line, you prepare your worms, and then you cast the line over the last surf, hoping that some fishes will catch your hook. When you do fishing, you prepare a pretext fishing strategy, and then you send your emails. Then there is a second phase where you are waiting for something to happen, regardless if you are fishing with a rod or if you are fishing sending emails. So you are waiting for something to happen, your victims to click on your links, do whatever you want, open your attachments. And then you have the third phase, which is actually the point where you get a big fish. Okay, so you get like shell on the company CFO laptop, you start to get like financial data out, and that's it, depending on the scope of your engagements. And this is another analogy. You see, I was fishing in Sardinia, got a nice, set of fishes a few years ago with a bunch of friends, and I was fishing as well a few weeks ago against a bank from Saudi Arabia, and it was basically the fishes are the victims over there. So fishing equals fishing. Again. End users are sometimes more stupid than saltwater fishes, seriously. Because when we do surf casting, you can see that if you fish in the same way with the same kind of lines, hooks, worms in the same area, after a few years you can see that if you fish always the same kind of fish, those fishes will become more intelligent. So you need to get like lower diameters of lines, smaller hooks, prepare the bait in a better way, and then it's going to be always more difficult because they adapt, they evolve. Instead, victims, some of the victims can be you actually, because don't think that you are not immune to this stuff only because you know how to do a pen test. So humans apparently do not evolve. We are doing phishing seriously with 15 years old techniques, Microsoft Office macros, HTA files, custom executable files, and you will see a couple of fairy tales which are going to amuse you. So the main point of this talk is to show you a way to automate a lot of things, because you know that you always need automation when you do phishing. Who is doing phishing over here, by the way? Yes, phishing. Phishing. So anyway, every time is a different story, of course. You need to modify things in your phishing campaigns, footers, URLs, executable things, custom messages, languages, and so on and so forth. So configuration overhead sometimes becomes a killer. Really, you are like with that kind of stress mood. Is it gonna work? Is the link gonna show really as I fucking supposed it was showing? And you can identify repeatable patterns, of course, ways to automate and templating here and there in a way to minimize error. So need of automation, and also speed is key once you got access to victims' assets. So you are in 10 minutes, you are collecting 10 credentials for 10 different users in Outlook Web Access, and then you cannot really log in like immediately to 10 different accounts. Maybe an hour later, the police, the IT guys in the target network will detect this, and they will change the password. So you really have maybe some hours sometimes to really get and extrude the data. So you need to automate. The idea came with when I saw for the first time Phishing Frenzy, this Ruby on Rails application that is open source in GitHub, written by Zeknox, Brendan McCann. We submitted a talk also to Black Hat and DEF CON. Maybe we'll be there. I don't know. right now I present it here as an exclusive for Hackpra. Meet fish rules. So current features is a way, is basic. What I did, I created a Linux image on Amazon EC2, which includes a Debian-based and includes basically Fishing Frenzy, Beef, and a couple of other tools, which automates for you creating templates, fishing templates. So highly configurable template system. You can support HTTP and HTTPS. You can do credential harvesting. So you can obviously also integrate, through the integration of Beef, you can do client-side attacks using template exploitation templates, which we will see later. And some of this is obviously a work in progress, which will come, that will be done in the next few months. And then there is a nice reporting stuff, but we will get into demos and stuff, don't worry. What is left as a manual step, if this stuff combines everything, at the moment, what you need to do is to configure the DNS zone file. So basically, SPF, DKM, this kind of TXT records, your CNAME records, depending on how deep you want to go with the phishing stuff. And configuring, starting the phishing campaign in the web app, which you're going to see it takes 5 minutes, literally. And eventually creating, modifying the client-side vector or the phishing template if, for example, you cannot find anything really phishable on the victim main domain, FQDN, for example. And then nothing, just wait for things to happen. Right now I'm using Amazon, and I've been using this for the past almost 2 years, professionally and not professionally, with the main advantage of it is that you can reboot the AWS instance, and every time you reboot the machine, you get a new public IP. Okay, so if someone blacklists you, you can reboot the machine, update a record in the DNS zone file, and in 5 minutes, the propagation in DNS will be fast. So in 5 minutes, you are up and running with a new domain. Actually, the same domain with a different IP or a different mapping completely. So the second thing is that it's very cheap. So you can run this stuff, this image that I created, for about $3, $3.50 for a week. And usually 5 days is enough, unless you are doing things with different time frames, very targeted attacks and things like that, where you cannot really mass mail every day or things like that. So the first fairy tale, the inspiration actually comes from an old album from Cradle of Filth. So it's called, let's call the target Lulz. It was like a part of the Australian government, one of the cities, I don't remember. So the FQDN was something like WA Gov AU. You cannot register domain names under the AU TLD. So I had to use something like this, which worked in HTTP. So once identifying the subdomains of the main FQDN, we identified through a 2,000 word list, just checking DNS. Webmail, VPN1. So the first one was Outlook Web Access, 2010. The second one was actually the Checkpoint SSL VPN. So you already know how it ended up. So this one was the phishing email, actually rendering it from the victim mailbox. So it was we are from IT, please check if your credentials still work here. And classic stupid href trick, HTTPS, but there is HTTP behind, who cares? And nothing you just need to send it at the proper time. So I woke up at 6 a.m. before. I need to plan on adding some scheduler, like Sidekick, into the Phishing Frenzy app. But anyway, I sent it after lunch to 46 targets, sorry. And nothing, this was the phishing page. And after 3 hours, before everyone went to back home, 40% success rate. So you harvest credentials. The credentials are automatically domain credentials. They work in the AD. Most of the Microsoft Sheet works in this way. And nothing, VPN credentials automatically. They didn't have, obviously, they didn't have two-factor authentication on the Cisco SSL VPN. So you connect via VPN and you are a completely outside attacker. So now you are in the internal network. From an external pen test point of view, you are now in an internal without pivoting, so just straight into the VPN. And this, after a few hours, we just like compromise the AD. And yeah, this was basically the FileZilla exe backdoored and nothing, like you can see, completely pwned. So basically 2 days of harvesting, preparing, configuring the campaign, sending it, and then compromising it from an internal point of view. 4 hours preparation, time, recon, so about $10 total cost, considering a C2 cost and the domain registration. Obviously, the invoice that, if you ask me to do this, I will like invoice you at least 1,500 euros per day. But this is like the cost if you want to do it yourself. And no 0 days involved as well. So you don't need to burn 0 days for things like this. And then there will be another even better example, which is now public from a few months, which I can speak about. More details about the SE2, which is obviously a private one. Nothing is for you right now. Can be used with these 2 small profiles, so very low memory consumption, and very cheap at the end, so $4 per 5-6 days. The Ruby script, so the idea is the following. I will show you the code, it's probably easier. Mario, I need your help. Where is okay, rules, fish rules, yes. That's like this one. Yeah. So nothing, the script is very simple. It's like a Ruby, there is a Ruby script that basically uses the fog gem to connect to Amazon, to the Amazon EC2 interface in a way that you can, create, list, start, stop instances. It allows you, what it does also, once it connects to it, it basically starts to do a bunch of things, like starting some services, configuring changing some configuration files, and then, setting up the whole environment for you in a way that you can just point your browser to the Phishing Frenzy web UI, and then from there control Phishing Frenzy, BIF, and mass mailing and this kind of stuff. I will show you a video in a sec anyway. F5, yes. I can manage it, I think. Obviously, I'm using Amazon SE2, but the script, you just need to change like 2 lines of configuration code, and you can use libvirt, QEMU, rackspace, you name it, Xen server. So this private MEI for now, I would probably release it soon, but Phishing Frenzy, BIF, Apache, MySQL, Postgres, and then I will add some tools as well in a couple of months. So let's quickly check a video. Yeah, I don't do lives anymore, sorry. It's too time consuming, too stressful. So on the left, you have basically, we have the fish rules script output, and this one is GoDaddy, so it's my phishing domain, where I'm configuring some stuff. I don't know if you can see it properly, I don't know. How you see it, okay? Said the man with a beard. Okay. So, okay, let me accelerate a bit. So, this one over here is basically the configuration file of the script, where fucking Linux. So this is the configuration file of the script where you basically specify the provider you want to use, so AWS Rackspace, the region where your instance is living, the type, the MEI. So this is like the instance ID. So every time you do a change, you create a new MEI. So you do like a snapshot, you say, okay, this is called ID 3. Then you do another change, this is ID 4, and here you just change this to the latest stable tested for production snapshot, and then every time that your users wants to do a new phishing campaign, you say, okay, just update the MEI ID, you can use the latest version or just do a git pull. This is the classic deployment. And then nothing, like AWS keys and nothing, public key authentication shit. Yes. So, here I'm configuring a bunch of things in my DNS zone files. This is the domain name I own, which I use sometimes to do phishing, and for LinkedIn, like abusing LinkedIn. So this is where the moment where you are creating a new campaign. Okay, so you run fishlools, you say you use this configuration file, is asking you like enter a name for your instance, then enters a name for the phishing frenzy web UI, so where the admin panel basically, so not non-predictable, ideally a non-predictable subdomain. And then where it asks you where you want to run the phishing campaign, so the FQDN where the phishing page should be served from. And once you enter this, it's going to basically connect to Amazon via the RESTful API of Amazon, and then say, take this MEI, use this profile, and run it with these performance options. And then it's going to wait for the instance to be alive. In the meantime, from another shell, invoking the same script, you can basically check what's going on. And here you are connecting to your EC2 account, and you can do like a list of all your running instances. So if you have like 5 different phishing campaigns for 5 different customers, you are going to instantiate 5 different VMs in a way that you have completely segregated environments, and you cannot if something blacklists someone, you don't have to be using like Apache vhost with like 3 phishing campaigns on the same server. It's quite risky. It depends on what you want to achieve, of course. And then after like a few minutes, the script runs, change a bunch of configuration files, and then it tells you copy this line, paste it in your browser, careful for these clipboard attacks, and then arrive to the phishing frenzy UI. I'm speeding up a bit because otherwise it's a bit long. So before doing that, actually I'm also, now that the instance is run and you have the public IP from Amazon, you are going to just update, we just updated before quickly the A record for the linkedhn.com, so it points to the instance that is now running properly in Amazon. Everything is configured, so you just need to properly add SPF and DKEM TXT records to your to ensure that basically you can bypass any spam filters. In this case, I'm actually using SendGrid as an SMTP server because for a reasonable amount of money you can send like 40,000 emails per month, which is fine, and you can use their SMTP server reputation. Together with SPF and DKM, you can reach every mailbox. You can reach Gmail, Forefront, protected stuff, everything. And because it's not supposed to be abused to send spam, but you can always provide that you are doing some technical job. So nothing, then at the end, once everything is configured, the script is actually telling you, okay, now you are ready to copy this another line of code, and is actually an SSH tunnel command, in a way that you create an SSH tunnel to the instance. In this case, I'm not using HTTPS, so you can securely connect to your phishing campaign web panel. There is even a little snitch. And once you are connected, it will look like this. So, but now there is the second video. This was just a preamble. And then the second one is actually the one where I will show you how everything works. Okay, so this is phishing frenzy. Okay, so these are actually the templates that we have loaded currently. So Intel Password Checker, eFax, HTA PowerShell, LinkedIn, which is the one I'm going to demo, and then others like Outlook Web Access, Office 365, Travel Agency, and others, you name it. These are the current ones that you find public right now. So for example, if you want to check how a template is created, you just check. It's basically like a PHP file, which is like this, with your, like this is the example of the Outlook Web Access one. And then you have the ERB, okay, sorry, this is the example of the PHP phishing page for Outlook Web Access 2010. Then you have the ERB file, which is the email. Okay, and as you can see, you have like placeholders like here and things that will be that template based, so they're gonna be replaced. with your like victim names and stuff. And then you have other files that are either images that you need in the email to be base64 and added in the email, or attachments like malicious stuff. So in this case, to recreate the LinkedIn phishing email, I had to add a face of a nice girl, nice, a girl, and that was briefly what was the email, but I will show you in a sec in action. The nice thing is that obviously you can configure everything. So the second PHP file that is here actually handles the redirect after your victim will submit the credentials in the phishing form, okay? Because obviously the credentials are arriving to you, then she gets redirected or whatever. In this case, we cannot iframe LinkedIn, otherwise we could have even iframed LinkedIn so to keep control, but that's not possible. So you can change directly from the web app, how the PHP phishing web page looks like, the email, and in this case, for example, in the email template, we're going to change some placeholders with actual values, so like the victim name, the job title, and these kind of things. So this is basically like what, if you want to use the LinkedIn phishing template, you just need to do like 5 minutes of this configuration. It really automates a lot. So grep replace, marketing specialist, pawning specialist, whatever. And now once your template is done and updated, you think you are all right, you are going to create a new campaign. This part can be automated as well via RESTful API, of course, is something I'm planning to work on. But right now, for demo purpose, we're going to see how you can do it right now. So new phishing campaign name, your target list in CSV format, so name, surname, email. And then mark the campaign as active. Yeah, so template selection, sorry. As you can see, you have a drop down where you select the template. As in, this is UI usability. Kudos to Zeknox. And then you have like the SMTP configuration where you define, connect to send grid, use this username and password, TLS, and send emails. And then you have this very important part, which is the email setting itself. The previous one was SMTP. This is email, where you actually configure the fields. So, you do it exactly like the LinkedIn one. So this is a perfect clone. It's quite difficult to realize unless you see the link. So yeah, you configure, subject from, display from, phishing URL, and then you have the BIF integration part. This is the cool part, and some of the stuff that you can see here. You can already find it in GitHub in my phishing frenzy fork if you want to play with it, but up to you. And here, the BIF configuration, the BIF integration is very simple. You pass the URL of the hook and then the RESTful API key. That's it. And then when you want to do some actions, you can basically do it from here. I will add more things that you can do from here in a way that you don't have to use 2 different UIs, of course. So now you have your victims loaded, BIF up and running in a screen log, screen session. And then I show you quickly how BIF is configured in this case. As I'm using mod proxy, so basically it works like this. When you do launch of the campaign in Phishing Frenzy, it's going to create a vhost file with moving the files that you want to be in the web root of that vhost. And then BIF is going to be behind, listening only in the loopback interface, and I'm using mod proxy to proxy requests. Some of them will go to BIF, some of them will go to the phishing website. So in this way, so with proxy pass reverse, in a way that you respect the same origin. Like you don't need even 2 domains first, and then you can have a lot of instances of BIF behind, and you can have like different things, like one with a WebSocket connection, one with a plain XHR connection, in a way that you can like maximize hook types, because sometimes it's different to follow, like to switch protocols, like we had some issues in the past. So yeah, it's all up and running, and what we just need to do is like we tile the production log just to double check. We launch the campaign. So for every email, it's going to do the template parsing, substitution, and then sending the email. This is the first victim. So first, yeah, and yeah, the message source. Like if you see the raw message, it doesn't look like dodgy. You can see send grid and stuff like that. I didn't remove this part, of course, but you have to remove it in production, like these comments. And when the victim clicks on the link, this call is already registered by Phishing Frenzy. The beef hook is automatically running as well in the meantime. So you get like a browser OS full fingerprint, and then geolocation and everything, which will be used later to display like an offline map based on OpenStreetMaps and the GeoIP database. In the meantime, the victim is typing, entering credentials, thinking that it's all legit, and then she gets redirected to the right LinkedIn. In the meantime, if we go in Phishing Frenzy, the report area will contain, will notify what happened. Click registered, and you can see also that this victim that is corresponding with a specific UID entered those credentials. You get all the fingerprinting over here, but you can also get a better fingerprinting with the geolocation and the map here, where like you can click and check, and then you can you can see. I mean, the cool thing about this, regardless of the map, which is like just to show off. Actually, it can be useful sometimes, but the nice thing is that you correlate the name, the surname, and the email that you have from a normal phishing campaign with the operating system, browser, plugin, fingerprinting that you get from BIF. You merge all together, including the geolocation, so you have a lot of information to further profile your victims and narrow down the attack path. So, like, instead of saying I have 3 options for later client-side exploits, I would say, okay, yeah, probably Chrome, Java. No, I will not use like Java signed applets if she's using Chrome and things like that, right? Or Internet Explorer 10, okay, I can use this attack from Rosario Valotta, okay. So you can basically do more decisions in a less blind way. The second victim is actually the one that is in Outlook. As you can see here, to protect your privacy, this is like the standard webmail client thing. So to prevent that your email is fucked and the email is not retrieved from external source, you can base64 the image or whatever data, and it's going to be shown, even in Gmail and stuff. In this case, instead of clicking to simulate, to show you that how cool the map is, I'm going to just like copy the link, open it from Safari, and being connected from a VPN from London. Actually, this is also, no, I shouldn't say this for the OWASP speaker agreement. So Mail Marshal's trusted security product got bypassed by this. Whatever. So you reestablish the tunnel, and then connecting from London and refreshing the page. Yes, like you see the other one, the connection. This one is actually like, it's not really an hooked browser, it's like the trusted product that tries to check if my link is malicious and failed, and then you get the hooked browser. Yeah, so basically here you can differentiate ideally, black and blue hooked browsers and stuff, and having the correlation, you can see, for example, that this one has a QuickTime plugin 773, so if you have a 0 day for it, you deliver it. And you deliver only that. You don't run that noob stuff of Metasploit, autorun, crazy shit. If you want to get caught, then you do that. And obviously, it's important to don't get caught specifically when you do client engagements. Otherwise, they think you are, a noob. And this is the second victim that will enter the password. And you will see here the second one clicked, success rate 100%, everyone is happy, and then you can start to think about the further attack paths, for example, spreading malware through her LinkedIn profile and things like that. So yes, phishing done. So the second fairy tale is actually a nice story that is public. You can read it online. There is not my name over there, or the other Brazilian friend of mine that did it with me, because we didn't want it to live, anyway, I'm telling you. The Telegraph UK asked us to provide, let's say, red teaming on a specific journalist. So Sophie Curtis, at the end we did a full remote one. We didn't do something with rogue access point or stuff like that. It was a pure remote one. The target name was provided and was Sophie Curtis. So we did some reconnaissance on this journalist, and we found that, yes, she probably had an Android. She was actually quite aware. So a less, like a target attack, not too difficult, but still, not from like a total noob. She was writing about IT stuff, security breaches. She was really into this Snowden leak shit and all so on and so forth. So, so we said, okay, so it's going to be a staged thing. So generic LinkedIn invite phishing campaign first, because we found her in LinkedIn first. So we knew that she had an account. We did the targeted, the generic attack like this. The aim was to fingerprint and then also get the email provider technology that she was using when getting our phishing email, which was identified to be Google for Business. And Google are actually quite good at preventing spam and this kind of stuff. So it was an additional thing to bypass. And that was the first step. The second step, we thought about 3 different attack plans. So a custom executable with inside a RAR, a Word document with a PowerShell macro, or an HTML application attack if she was using Internet Explorer, and the PowerShell macro if she was using Microsoft Office and exe. So we were supposing that she was on Windows. And in fact it was. So nothing, this was the phishing email that I sent to my own address, of course. To test is always recommendable that you do a full test every time, unless you are really sure that your software doesn't fuck up. And now I'm almost there, but yeah, so she clicked on the LinkedIn one, and we identified via BIF, a bunch of plugins. So Office 2012, Java 1.7, Update 51, this was in September 2004. So Citrix ICA client, quite interesting. Okay. And you can see obviously like the geolocation below, but whatever. So we said, okay, we're gonna deal with Windows and cool. So let's go for the first attack. So the custom encoded exit inside password encrypted RAR. Very, very, very elite. Like again, 15 years old attack. So we had, we were happy to prepare a custom pretext. So we were like speculating that we knew that MI6 was compromising the Brazilian elections, and that was actually there were rumors about this, like involvements of CIA and this kind of stuff back in that September 2014. So we said, okay, this looks actually a pretext that is plausible. And then the second part of, sorry, I don't know if you are done reading it, but yeah, basically this is what happened. We went in some details, naming shit and stuff. And then the second part, there is some part that I removed, and then the second part was, okay, so here we are giving you, we want to give you this leak in a way that the Telegraph can actually publish it. And so we have a RAR in the email as an attachment, the password is this one. Okay, and then, make sure that you do this, and that, UK leak team, blah, 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 sincerely. So, yeah. At the end, as we said, Gmail for Business was used. This is why we use the RAR. Because if you encrypt the zip, there is the file name leak. So Google will detect it, but Google, as far as I know, still now doesn't detect this. Encrypted RAR with a custom exe inside. So phishing domain with SPF and DKM, encrypted RAW with custom exe, and it arrived. The custom exe was basically like a meterpreter, nothing, I didn't reinvent the wheel. So meterpreter, HTTPS, reverse DNS, and then also out of bound extrusion via Outlook profile, so via SMTP emails. So it triggered like actually the first two. The third one, she didn't have Outlook. She was using Gmail web app. Custom encoding no need to name the tool, and then Adobe PDF modified icon plus the long Windows file name trick, which worked perfect in Windows 7. And so custom message box, we also added, so the nice thing is that we added also a message box function. So as soon as you click on the exe, while the shells were triggering, you was also getting like a small pop-up with the PDF icon saying Adobe Reader could not open x66.exe.pdf.exe. So at the end she clicked and we got camera and microphone access. So basically that's it. 2 days. Plan A was successful, so plan B, which was already prepared, we just kept it for us. And that was another potentially plausible story because Occupy Central was happening in Hong Kong back in September 2014. And then, you know, we could have used like a Word document rather than an exe file if the exe file was failing. So, yeah, it's mostly about choosing the right pretext. Yeah. Again, no 0 days involved, and this was a targeted one. So, yeah, so I'm almost done anyway. Other 5 minutes. So, if you want more fairy tales, I could have other stories to share, but to be honest, you should check like the talk that Krzysztof, which is somewhere here as well, and me did last year in InsomniHack. If you want to see some like nice exploitation for the masses. Then some of the videos from the Browser Hackers Handbook Companion website, which are pretty cool, and yes, Vimeo and things like that. I'm also, as we will see later, working on auto-run engine. So, yeah, the work in progress is basically integration with URL Crazy for domain registration providers. I mean, the idea is to have in the Ruby script a way that you specify the FQDN of your target, and then it's going to tell you, okay, I suggest you to register these 10 domains. One is with a bit flipping, one is, I don't know, homoglyph, one is like a character permutation and things like that, which you do via URL Crazy. And then once you have selected your one or multiple domains, it asks you, okay, you want to buy them? Yes. Then RESTful API call to Namecheap or GoDaddy. You buy the domain, it does the configuration for you, and then it starts the VM. And then once the VM is started, it just updates again the A record and the SPF and DKM. And so you just like have the campaign to configure, but then it will also, you know, configure the campaign for you. And just let you choose exploitation profiles, that's the idea, which you prepare in advance as JSON files. So other stuff, more reporting capabilities. So for example, this one was something that is currently available as a report if you have like a proper, you know, if you run the whole thing that I showed before. So proper correlation. And another nice work in progress from a while actually is the server-side auto-run engine. So it's basically a way to say to Beef at runtime, eat this JSON file and understand that I want to run, if the browser is Internet Explorer 10, I want to run this, this and that in a chain, and I want to run the third one only if the second one doesn't fail, and then get the response from every module. Things like that. So you can automate a lot of things. You can chain like UI abuse tricks with you know, serving extensions for Firefox and stuff like that, or the HTA tricks can be automated like really, really nice, in a really, really nice way, or do the classic, you know, you remember in Twitter, fuck, I have to say that, 6 months ago in Twitter that everyone was saying, WebRTC, you can decloak people, VPN, internal IP addresses. This was the Hacker News news. And this is actually known from 2012. It's written in the book. There is the BIF module, so no one gives a fuck, like the Greg said, like no one's read everything. So whatever. So you can automate things like this that are automated already in BIF from months, which are like, as soon as you get a hook, you get the WebRTC IP from Chrome and if the browser is Chrome or Firefox. And then you start to get the subnet, enumerate the subnet with like Garrett Hayes techniques back in the days, and which still work. And then you can like do, for example, blind cross-site request forgery attacks on routers or things that were successful a few weeks ago with some friends were using shell shock. Cross-origin blindly on 80.443 in the internal network. And we pawned a bunch of NAS, like outdated QNAP things. So, and this is basically the idea of how a JSON file for the like auto-run template for BIF is going to look like. So you define the target, then the version that you want to target, then you define here the modules, and these are like two different modules with ID, condition if you need it. So for example, run the second one only if the result of the first one is the string or is I don't know, bigger than this number or this, something like that. And then the name of the module, which either that or the ID, whatever, and then the options, so parameters input that you need to pass to the module to work. And you can like chain them in a way, you can delay them, and you can change the execution order. This is like very rudimental, but that's the initial idea I had. I'm going to work on this, improve it, and then finally code it. It shouldn't be that difficult. And it's going to open a lot of possibilities, in my opinion. Because basically then, when you do a phishing campaign, what you need to do at the end is just prepare enough phishing templates for the web page, for the email, and for the second exploitation part that will cover enough use cases you think that you will basically need to minimize. You can minimize a lot of the time required seriously to do phishing in this way. And yeah, that was not the ISIS flag, which in my opinion is all bullshit, this ISIS thing, just BIF offline browsers. So yeah, hope you enjoy the dark fairy tales. Yeah. So questions? Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
How did the victims react? Were they like, oh, this was a one-off, I don't fall for this in general, or were they like, I'm going to unplug my computer because I can always...
So you are interested to know how the victims respond, like the customer responded? Yeah, sometimes very scared, or sometimes they were saying, we had this was detected by WebSense. But like 3 hours after I had all the hooked browsers, so 3 hours later they blocked. So sometimes they get scared in this way, so they, they say, you got detected, you need to stop, or sometimes they just like, yeah, they really don't get it. Like sometimes I phone these customers that, for example, had like, I was browsing like messages from 2013 in their web mailbox, and they had like mails from different security companies that were providing phishing training in the past, like phishing, like protection from phishing, and still they got, pwned. So it's very relative, the reaction. I mean, sometimes when you do this stuff, they ask you to limit the scope a lot, so you can just get the credentials, check if they work, and that's it. But then, when the scope is more open, it's definitely more interesting. Yes? Well, sometimes, I don't know, like if they have like a proper, if they're able to properly prevent like exfiltration traffic, for example, if they have like, I don't know, HTTPS proxy that blocks certain things, they block DNS, sometimes it's, sometimes you might get frustrated when you don't see the reverse shells coming back, for example. But sometimes you don't need that, so you revert back to other things like exploiting web apps from the outside as well. It depends. It's like a mix of everything. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, the anti-spam filters are never a problem, for example, so I don't know really how to fix this with anti-spam solutions because there is no way. I've heard about some people doing like images of, you want to whitelist your bank website, so you do an image of how the page looks like, then you do the same on the phishing page when you are comparing it, and then you compare that with the URL as well. So even if the phishing page is perfectly equal, then they check the URL, but you need to have that whitelisted in advance, so it's not really scalable. So I'm not sure. I don't really have a clue how you can prevent these attacks. Probably training people to don't click on links, things like that. Like one thing is obvious. What I do personally, I always render emails in plain text. I never render them in HTML. Then I copy and paste. Again, I will consider that again, but I copy and paste the links and things like that. But don't use webmails as well. Use it like a client. Yeah, basically.
How often have you seen proper incident response? Said it twice.
Yeah, sometimes. It depends on the customer. There were cases of large financial companies that, for example, they were really shit at it, and then sometimes large hotel retailers that, for example, were getting so panicked that they were forwarding us. So we said, we will start this month. We don't tell you when, this month. And we started like in the middle of the month, and from the 1st to the 7th of the month, they sent like every day different phishing emails that we were not sending, that they were receiving, and they were saying, is it you? No. Is it you? No. Like this, looping. And so sometimes you have this kind of reaction, and it's a bit, shit.
I'm referring to after you hacked them.
Yes.
And you were in their system and pulling out their stuff. I've been doing this for a while as well, and the usual reaction is that sooner or later system administration is finding out and they're sending an email. We're being phished, don't click on the link. That's all they do.
Yes, okay, that happened as well. And
so shells keep on going and everything.
Yeah, so for example, sometimes it happened that we could, for example, so we reply to that email, spoofing the email of the IT guy. Once we were, because you monitor obviously what your victim has access to, so when you see things like that, you reply spoofing the IT guy and saying it was all a false alarm, please go back, or maybe click on this as well. Like,
if you clicked on
it works. Sometimes,
if you didn't click on the other link.
Yeah, sometimes it works like you just following your victim. Sometimes when you do targeted attacks, you want to have like a mailbox where you can receive replies. So you get a proper interaction, and you use your social engineering skills at the end in that case. Yeah.
In my experience, most organizations are not prepared to deal with an actual breach.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there are people over there trying to let us think that you can buy a product for 50,000 euros and then you can have your ass covered, but that is not true. So, Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's mostly about like how the human interacts with systems most of the times. It's very hard to. We can do a philosophical discussion with David maybe about the topic. I would say that let's say that I'm more interested into the offensive part, and then the training is something that maybe we will create. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. Any other questions? Yes. No, sometimes we use Veil, or sometimes we use just like those like tools that you can get in like the dark web and pay them for a while, and that's it. Yeah, mostly like that. And then we use fakev.ru to check the payloads because they don't share the payload with VirusTotal.
And which format is like most triggerable for users?
The what? Sorry.
PDF or which file format is most
the most file formats executed, well, it depends, like exes or Windows, I guess. Yeah, like DMGs on like you can, for example, like for OS X, you can like send to a guy like you know that he's using PowerPoint, for example. You want to send him. I've seen like people already doing that. They send DMG files that contains an executable, and when you double click, you think that you are installing the PowerPoint template, and rather than that, you are triggering a reverse shell, things like that. So, see, the possibilities are infinite possibilities. Any other questions? Yes, I don't. Yes. Have you tried to? Ah, no. Ah, yes. That was Mario alone in the night, and he said, what I have to do, I have to pound beef. Back in the days, yes, it was good. Yes. But I don't use the web UI. I'm just using the RESTful API, so for people that are, yeah, so stupid to use my shitty coded web UI. Yeah. And yeah, so if you don't have any other questions, guys, or yes, if there is some other question, I can, I guess, handle other 2 questions. Yes.
Does the anti-phishing services give you any hard time by any chance, or do you find it more challenging when a customer has purchased an anti-phishing service?
Like, there are a couple of endpoint security systems that I cannot mention for the OWASP speaker agreement, which obviously they detect beef, for example, and and you can bypass them using the evasion extension that they added like back in the days for 44con, I think. So most of them, they are just regexing the JavaScript for either global variable names or function names. So as soon as you scramble both of them with a like hash table, whatever, you bypass them. I cannot name them, but it's not a big problem usually, unless they have something very advanced, which so far still didn't happen. But my plan is to get all those tools, all those products like WebSense, SWG again, and a bunch of others, maybe FireEye, and then try them out and check how it works. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
Do you plan to add something to the image so that you can follow up your phishing campaigns to be able to somehow convince the victims to help you bypass two-factor authentication?
Yeah, that's a good point. We can discuss it. It's really interesting. Yeah, I've seen people abusing the camera to like the victim camera to then get like some pictures of what she was doing. But we should speak about it. It's actually quite interesting. I still didn't have. Sometimes there was the problem of two-factor authentication. For example, in Outlook Web Access, in a bank, it happened, but then there were other routes that you can anyway use, because once you get the AD credentials, then some of the services that are exposed will be two-factor authenticated, other not. So, but good point. We will work on it. Guys, anyone else? No. Cheers. Thanks.